words of affirmation.
Mm.
It's words of affirmation is very big. I think that is something that every individual should do from like when they're young, like parents to kids and kids to themselves and parents to themselves, husband to wife, wife to husband. And it doesn't have to be long. It could just be 10 seconds or 15 seconds. Oh, I woke up today. I look good. I feel good. Let's go kill it. That alone resonates with the rest of your body.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's podcast of Our Lives Narratives. This platform gives everyday people the opportunity to tell their stories and share their experiences with the hope that it will impact and transform the lives of our viewers out there. Today, we do have a very unique artist. He is self-taught contemporary master of hyperrealism. That's a genre of visual arts. He's got quite the compelling story. When Ola is not doing his art, he loves to play sports, specifically tennis. He tutors young kids in mathematics, and also he loves fitness. And I learned that he likes to go salsa dancing. So without further ado, you all help me welcome our guest for today, Ola Bolarinwa. Ola, you are welcome to this podcast.
Thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here. It's definitely an honor. As Annette was saying, my name is Ola Bolarinwa. I was born in Nigeria actually. I came to Canada in 2008. I used to live in Vernon, BC. Actually, I stayed there for about 8 months. That was my, let's say, gateway or transition when I first came to Canada. So you can imagine the temperature change, and I came back in November then. So it was like right in the middle of fall. Then I moved to Edmonton in 2009, and I've been here ever since. So yeah, it's been it's pretty good. Lots of ups and downs, like most of us experience. And I am glad to be here today. And thanks for having me again.
You're welcome. We're so excited, and I can't wait for our viewers out there to see some of your artwork.
Yeah, of course.
And I'm sure it's gonna bless somebody out there.
Absolutely. Art is something that I used to do as a kid, but again, like I mentioned before, ups and downs. I didn't do it for many years, like even up to 10 years, and I picked it back up a few years ago, and then of course we'll dive into this later.
That's
and then
right.
During the pandemic, it became like a consistent thing I did as a hobby, because of course during that time we had to all stay indoors. And and of course the thing about the artwork what I was doing was that you didn't need anyone else to do it. I didn't need to rely on anyone else, so it just became like my thing. And I was fortunate enough to be working at that time, wasn't laid off, and so even right after work I would just have dinner and then start sketching, and it just became a constant thing. And from there it's like, oh my goodness, I'm actually enjoying this, and it became like it became like therapy for me in terms of like just zoning out and just focusing on that. So yeah, I'm glad to be definitely doing it, and I hope I continue to do it for as long as I can.
That's amazing.
Thank
you. I think you're one of those people that use the pandemic period to their advantage. Just
I'd like to
picking
think
up.
so. Yeah, absolutely.
Because it was a long time, and you do every now and then we hear stories of people doing what they used to do before, music, art, or coming up with a business plan, right?
Yeah.
Things like that. So yeah, so we would talk a little bit more about your pandemic experience with arts and how you've developed your art over the past couple of years. I know when I first, so there's a seniors association in the Sierra Leone community, and every now and then they have their activities that they post on our association forum.
Yeah.
So you had a workshop with the seniors group,
That's right.
and then I'm quite active in the community. I did see some of those photos that was posted online, and I was just drawn to some of the pictures that they had shared. And all of a sudden, I'm reaching out to our community president then, who connected with the, seniors leader. And next thing you know, I'm in touch with you, and we've arranged this. So I'm so happy. Thank you for.
Thank you for having me.
You're
I do
welcome.
like in the process. I will also thank Auntie T for the opportunity to host the art workshop, because she reached out to me, and I'm definitely glad she did, because
Yeah.
it's almost like a chain reaction by reaching out to me, by
Yeah.
hosting it, and by making sure that everyone got involved and enjoyed themselves. It gave me the opportunity to be here today with you.
It looked like the seniors had a lot of fun.
Actually, they
Based off
did,
of the
and
photos.
honestly, I did as well too, because again, it was my first time with hosting that kind of workshop. Because most times when I do these art workshops, they tend to be like maybe more like teenagers or something
Oh,
like that. So when Auntie T invited me to do this, it was I was like, okay, I'll be looking forward to it. So
yeah.
when we had the initial discussion, I asked her what kind of theme she wanted, and she's something about summer and so on and so
Yeah.
forth. But I wasn't sure what to expect. But either way, I was very excited and looking forward to it.
Yeah.
And so when the day finally came, when I saw the amount of people that showed up,
Yeah.
I could sense that they were actually looking forward to this. And I'm not sure if they knew what to expect as
Yeah.
well too, or the fact that maybe I might have been a little nervous just to see. But the way it turned out, and the way everyone was actively engaging, asking
Yeah.
questions, taking pictures, eating, but it was just very like great vibes.
Right.
And I was definitely happy to have participated, and I hope that there is more of that to come as well.
Awesome. So talking about your workshops,
Mhm.
you do host. So what's the process like? Like if somebody wanted to reach out, because you mentioned, you're just saying now that senior event was like the very first.
Yeah,
You normally focus on
but
teenagers
normally
and
focus on things like maybe kids that are just starting out, or like sometimes I've also worked with communities like the African Center, which have
okay.
been very fantastic in helping like small businesses like myself. So it's been been awesome, and I've worked with BCW in the past as well too.
Oh.
So in terms of like hosting art workshops,
Hmm.
and a lot of these companies as well to have helped like small businesses, which is great for people like myself. And so when I was told to do it, it was definitely, like I said, it was different, but it was definitely like, okay, I like to do this and
Right.
add this to my list of like, things I like to
Yeah.
do and continue doing. And so, and right now, obviously, it's not quite as frequent. But however, I hope that I can be able to change that and do that maybe even like once or twice a month. Depends
Okay.
on the depends on like the demand and stuff
Yeah.
like that. It doesn't matter the age range.
Awesome. So if you have your organization out there that's looking into something along the line, all I will have will share, his contact later on for you guys to
Yeah,
reach out.
that I think I'll be looking forward to it, and of course, but I'll be most times the when it comes to like these kind of situations, yeah, it always like I like to obviously do my due diligence by depends on the company. You ask like what kind of theme they have in mind,
Yeah.
what's the hours, what's how many people are they expecting,
Right.
because these would also play a part in terms of like what I would think would be a great idea, what we could sketch
Okay.
and stuff like that too, because then it's like it's perfect. Is it going to be on a weekday after work, or is it going to be on a weekend when sometimes people are more relaxed? All of those things are things that I think about when I also do art workshops, because I
Okay.
want to make sure that everyone is involved
Yeah.
and not necessarily there out of like necessity,
Right.
but rather than something that I want to do, because there's a big difference when you actually want to do it, and because you'll be able to see that in the outcome of the drawing when it's done.
Yeah.
And that's exactly the way I felt when I hosted the art workshop with the seniors of Sierra Leone.
Yeah. It takes a lot though. I've been to one
Yeah.
of those workshops where I'm like, I don't know how to draw, but you guys, like the artist or the instructor, you guys do such a great job that at the end of my workshop, I was like, okay, I can actually draw.
Yeah.
So I'm sure it's quite a satisfying place to be, seeing that you other people are having a little bit of glimpse of what you do on a daily basis.
Yeah.
Right. Amazing. All right. So let's rewind back in 2008.
When I first came, yes.
All are 16 years old then, right? You traveled from Nigeria to Canada for school.
Yeah.
I don't believe you knew anyone per se that.
No, actually, I did not know anyone
Okay,
at all.
all right. And all you had was an instruction sheet
Yep,
from
literally a
So
piece of paper.
walk us through that journey.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So obviously, while I was after I was done high school in Nigeria, I was waiting on trying to decide if I was going to be schooling in Nigeria or obviously traveling. And so we were working on obviously the visa to Canada at the time as well too. So it was kind of delayed. So finally, when he actually came through, the day I got my visa, actually, the next day I left the country. So I initially thought I was gonna come with my mom or my parents or someone, so that way, when maybe most likely my mom, when she knows where I'm staying, when she knows I'm settled, then she will go back maybe after a couple of months. But I remember the lady who said, nope, you're going on your own. And she literally wrote down a piece of paper and she said at that age, and she's like, you're going to go from Nigeria to Germany. And then in Germany, you're going to stay in Frankfurt. And then after that, you're going to take the fly from Frankfurt all the way to Vancouver. And when you get to Vancouver, you're going to try on the shirt. And once you wear the shirt, someone is going to recognize, my dad is going to recognize it, and it's going to pick you up from there. And then from Vancouver, I wore the same shirt. I went to Kelowna. And then in Kelowna, I had my homestay family. They picked me up, which were like a homestay family who took me in. They picked me up and then they drove me to Vernon, BC. So that's where I landed when I lived in Canada for the first 8 months. Vernon is such a beautiful place. It's like, think of it as equivalent to St. Albert in Edmonton, in Alberta, sorry. So it's a place that, let's be honest, that doesn't get a lot of Black people, especially back then in 2008. So it was quite, it was different at the time. And obviously I was very young. I was still a novice. And by that time coming in November, so the temperature wasn't as drastic as it normally gets in Edmonton, but it's still cold compared to what I'm coming from in Nigeria. And so when I did get to BC, when I lived in Vernon, staying with the homestay family, I got to do grade 12 because I had to get used to the education system in Canada. So I had to combine that obviously with my grades from Nigeria after I finished high school, which was actually very good for me to do because it was a way to, assimilate and embed myself with Canadian culture and do things the right way. So I wasn't just going straight into university or thrown into literally the den. So I did that. We did grade 12 when we did with my homestay family. I applied to different universities all over. And of course, BC is and was expensive too. Anyway, so I was lucky enough. So I came to Edmonton 2009, which is because of U of A. I went to U of A for my first year. While I was there, I actually lived in Lista. So anyone that's probably gone to U of A will probably know about Lista residence. So that's kind of like staying on campus. So I stayed there for a year, but of course also international students as well too. After my first year there, I went to MacEwan University. The thing about it is most people will probably attest to this. U of A is like a planet. It's
Tell
huge.
me about it.
So you can imagine someone without family, without knowing anyone in Canada, just trying to figure out all of these things for myself. And I'll be honest, it was definitely difficult. But one thing about Nigerians is that we have this survival of the fittest mentality. You know, I don't think there's anywhere on this planet Earth you will find a Nigerian. Let's be honest, because I think if you go to Alaska, you probably still find us as well too.
That's right.
Because we just have that like survival of the fittest mentality. You know, every day we wake up is another day that we can change whatever situation we're in. We have this saying called suffering and smiling. You know, that's kind of like a thing where, again, it's, you know, sometimes some people walk on the street every day, but you don't know what they're going through.
Right.
But every day they're smiling because they just have to have that facade, you know, but you don't know exactly what's going on deep down and stuff like that. So I also, prior to me coming to Canada, actually, from I think grade 11 or so, I was sent to boarding school as well too. So with the boarding school, it kind of helped with independence and, like, you know, punctuality, you know, things that you learn, like, you know, that makes you grow up a lot faster in terms of, like, okay, you wake up at a certain time, you make sure that you clean your room, lay your bed, all of those things. Precision. You have to be, your shower being done by a certain time, all of those things. So it was kind of like a little bit of like military, brutal kind of thing. Like, you know, it was kind of rigid.
Yeah.
But it was very good because at that time your brain is not like almost fully developed, but you're kind of like learning about how to do things, when to do things, all of the little things that help with the basic needs and stuff like that. And again, most importantly, independence. So I think having done that for about 2 years in Nigeria, it certainly helped me a lot when I came to Canada, because now I'm not used to being alone. And also, more importantly, you have that feeling like, okay, I can do this. And of course, growing up in some places in Africa, sometimes like that, a 10-year-old in Nigeria would be equivalent to like 14 or 15-year-old in Canada, because again, depends on where you are. You grow up so fast. And I think that growing up there, it also made it easier for me to, when I came here, I had to, apart from like weather and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And some people also don't know this, but British English is actually the first language in Nigeria. So I do have to say that, because when I lived in Vernon, because like I said, they didn't get a lot of Black people, questions like that do come up. I mean, at least did come up back then. And you get asked questions like, you know, oh, your English is so good, and so on and so forth. So, and it's kind of like I've got myself in embarrassing situations as well too, in a little bit, because like when you speak British English, it's different from like North American English. So some words that I used or that we used back in Nigeria, or like that I'll be able to understand a British person when they say something, because we use the same terminology.
Right.
But over here, it was like people were asking me, what are you saying? So it did take me a while.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, we can relate to Sierra Leone and the British, you know, colony as well, right? So we get that all the time, like, oh, why is your English so good? I'm like, okay.
There you go.
But yeah, wow, like I just want our viewers to put things into perspective. Think about this. What were you doing like at 16-year-old? Like, put yourself in all our shoes, you know, at 16. Just take a couple seconds and think about it. And here's all our journeying from a different continent to another. Wow. Good job, though.
Thank you.
So what really, well, already you've explained some of the things that kept you grounded. The fact that you went to boarding school. And then also, I'm sure, just being at that age, you were, you know, I would think you're more open-minded, right? To do new things.
Exactly,
and, as opposed to if you were
older,
right? So, well, you know, you should be grateful for that boarding school that you went to. Which
but at that
you
time,
had no idea.
At that time, honestly, I was not, because again, I was, let's just say I was not, sometimes, you know, I had my ways growing up because you're
Yeah.
always going to be like not always listening and all
Which
of
we
those
all
things.
do as
Of course,
that
you have that
teenagers.
part of the
Yeah.
teenage, the part where you're always a little bit headstrong and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it was definitely good for my upbringing to make sure that I wasn't always going to be around my family and so on, because I needed, like, instructions, you needed to follow rules and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
again, still be able to ask questions on all of those things. So coming to Canada at such a young age and like having to figure out things and not knowing anyone here, it was very challenging. But because of the fact that I'd done the boarding school, it was one of like, okay, let's just roll my sleeves up and let's just get it done. And we figure out life as we go, kind of thing. So it was pretty much like standing at a crossroad, left and right. You don't know exactly the outcome, but you're like, well, I got to pick one. But you find out whether you just have to live with whatever decision it was, so the good and the bad.
Yeah.
And so it was pretty much that for me. And honestly speaking, I think coming here at that age was also beneficial because, like I said, like mentioned, that you're very open-minded to a lot of things at the time, right? So I realized that it helped me in terms of like making friends with every kind of person. It didn't matter the race, it didn't matter where you're from. But as opposed to coming here, like I'm sure a lot of our viewers will be able to also attest to this. Like if you go to a place at the age of like 30, 35, or whatever it is, or a lot older when you're fully matured and stuff like that, human nature, you're going to gravitate towards people or things you do, as like, that's what we do. But then it's coming at that age, you just making friends with everybody. You're open-minded. So there are some things that I'm probably sure, like if this was around the time I was coming to Canada, I would probably say, no, I'm not doing it. So like, somebody's told me like, you like to go skating, for example. And I'm thinking, not really. Because they're like, I'm not trying to get injured or something like that. But that would be something that maybe if they asked, like, at that age when I was like 16 or something, it was like, okay, let's go do it. It's like, I'll break a few bones, but it's gonna heal. But that was it's the different mindset. So coming at such a like young age, like when you come at an older age, whatever kind of principles you have, good or bad, you're pretty much stuck in your ways. It's a lot harder to combat, like, the perspective somebody has sometimes. And but when you're younger, it's like, okay, it helps. So it was kind of like good for me in terms of like I had the values of like Nigeria, the adaptation and all of those things, and then coming to Canada. So I kind of a little bit got the best of both worlds for me, which was definitely beneficial.
Yeah, you have a nice balance.
Yeah.
And you've met people along the way that, helped your transition.
Absolutely, yes, they did.
Which is good. Do you want to?
Yeah, absolutely.
Talk about those individuals.
While I was obviously in school, obviously there was still like obviously lots of struggles. Like you're still trying to get accustomed to like, okay, how many classes do you take? Like, what's the reading habit here, and so on and so forth. When I was in McEwen, I was lucky enough, being an international student, I had a couple of advisors. They really helped me out back then, and they really they were like my therapists in some kind of way. So I used to report to them, and they used to ask me about how my week was going and stuff like that. And of course, with international student school fees, which is so expensive too, so there is that stress, and more importantly, constantly having to check the CIC website, and you have to make sure that your study permit was up to date, your work permit was intact, all of those things. And before you can get your work permit, also at that time you had to be you had to have like a 2.0 GP at minimum, and you had to make sure that you were in not in open studies. So all of those criteria had to be met first before you could obviously get a work permit. I think it's changed where your study permit is needed, but back then you had to make sure that it was a study and work permit, which obviously like I think at that time was like $150 each. And so constantly having to check the website of the CIC and to make sure that all your papers, everything was all in good standing was not easy, because you still had to study. And I made a lot of friends, of course, from Nigeria, from other countries and so on. But some other people were able to relate as well too, because they were pretty much in the same predicament as me.
You,
The only difference was maybe they were just from like China, or they were from like India or whatever. So they had even some Nigerians as well too. So we all had like different ways in which we're able to get ideas from each other, which is definitely good, because it's the feel good factor when you know sometimes that you're not the only person going through something alone.
Yeah.
And we talked about it and stuff like that. So it was definitely great for the mental health.
Right.
And like, we're stronger together. And and from there we kind of started growing and stuff like that, and had to figure things out.
So you built relationships, you've built even more discipline over the years, and I'm sure that experience has shaped you into a better person that you are now. So. That discipline, because at 16-year-old, you still have parents guiding you, especially when it comes to university, that are guiding you right along the way. But, an experience that's gonna, I'm sure, touch other people's lives. There are many of you out there. Kudos to all the international students out there, because I can't even imagine. There's a lot of things you have to worry about.
Absolutely.
Right? So,
and then there's the part of like
job.
being a man that's just that naturally comes with its own
thing.
And then there's the part of like making sure, like, being a man or being a firstborn or something, like those responsibilities that are just naturally almost embedded in you from birth. You have to, you're the first son to travel, like, to travel, better yet, like the responsibility just fall on you. So even sometimes, unfortunately, when my parents, especially my mom, sometimes used to call me, and I even though I had some issues, she's like, is everything going fantastic? And I had to
but you're suffering in silence.
But but the thing was that, like, it wasn't that, it was not just the lighter, but the problem itself she couldn't help me. It wasn't sometimes always a financial problem. It was just problem of being heard or something like that. But again, it's like, okay, she's 10,000 kilometers away.
Yeah.
She can't quite help me, but I can certainly add to her problems, kind of thing. So that was what I was thinking. And so sometimes I had to say, everything is fantastic, and then I'll figure it out.
I'm sure she knew you weren't saying the truth sometimes.
Well, no, of course she did, because she would always keep going. And I just sensed that, like, you call me 3-4 times a week just to get it out of me.
Right.
And stuff like, of course, with the time difference as well, too. So we had to be mindful about when to call and stuff like that, to make sure that I was awake and so on and so forth. So that took some time to find the middle ground between the best times to call as well, too. So she did know, obviously, maternal instinct and all of those things too. And but sometimes my dad will also call as well too. But sometimes they obviously will be together side by side.
Nice.
And ask me how social life is going, ask me how school is going. There was a right balance.
Right.
And so I now talk to my siblings as well too, make sure that everything was good and so on and so forth. But again, after I'm done with the call, like, you got to go figure out life. And so, okay, what's the next step? What do I got to go do? And so on and so forth, to make sure that you rectify the situation and stuff like that. And like, we have kind of like this saying in Nigeria, at least my mom used to say, is like, kind of like, remember where you came from, remember where you are, remember where you're going. So with that being said, it's kind of like one of those, like, it's kind of like, and just in your brain, doesn't matter if it's like in your subconscious, right? Just embedded in there. So it's kind of like, doesn't matter. And again, I think it also comes again with sometimes being the upbringing and like growing up in Nigeria and stuff like that. So it's quite a saying that was very common, and so it kind of helped with like my my decision making kind of stuff, right? Because it's like one thing that is always, how we have sometimes our shadow behind us. Reputation is in front of you.
Right.
So sometimes you want to be, as I said, that we're like, oh yeah, I know him or I know her. She's this and that, right? So the way somebody carries themselves, so when you're not even there, the reputation is the one that is going to do the talking for you. So that's kind of like what also has to do with that saying kind of thing, right? You have to kind of carry on the family heritage kind of stuff.
Well, thanks to your family, even though they were not present, but they were quite involved as well.
Absolutely,
Just
they're
like being
very
a cheerleader for you.
absolutely that they did for me.
That's
Yes.
nice. Amazing. Okay, so now let's, begin to dive into your art.
Okay.
Let's talk about the pandemic. We already, mentioned. I always say it depends how you looked at it. It could be a blessing or a curse.
Yes.
So you took advantage of that, and you did a little bit of art growing up, but you did put this behind you for a while. Of course,
Yeah.
art is not the first thing.
Yeah, no, when you're in a foreign land and you're trying to figure out how
Yeah,
everything else is working around you. So
exactly.
it's like, it's almost
So
like
this was an
being,
opportunity.
yeah,
So
yeah,
throw some light
yeah,
on that,
absolutely.
how that
Came about.
got inspiration, came about again, and you started doing, and how what you did before transition into
Into
what
that.
you're currently doing.
So like you mentioned, so I used to do it as a kid, but like I said, right, for over 10 years, I really didn't pick up a pencil because again, that was a list of my worries
Yeah.
when you have to figure out, okay, where am I staying? What classes am I taking? Like what job, money, and so on. Pretty much the shelter necessities had to come first, right? Before you figure out all the fact that like your status in Canada was in good standing, all of those, your GPA, everything like that. So I think I like watching cartoons sometimes, and I get that so that gives me motivation for thinking or something like that. I just need something in the background. Some people they like watching, let's say, all these reality shows.
Yeah.
So, but I for one prefer like things like Animal Planet or cartoons, just to interesting enough to make sure there's sound in the background. But I don't necessarily have to be watching it. But these cartoons could be Family Guy because it's hilarious, or
Family
like
Guy.
South Park, and so on and so forth. So this particular day, I was, I think at 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. in the morning, I couldn't sleep. But I had this South Park poster in my bedroom. So because I couldn't sleep, I was just staring into the abyss, and it happened to be where the line of sight of the South Park poster. So at 2, 3 a.m., I just said to myself, it would be cool if I just sketched those characters. That's the way the thought just came to my head. This was prior to the pandemic, actually. So then I just took the poster down, grabbed the pencil and the paper, and I started sketching after midnight. It was actually insane
amazing.
after over 10 years of not picking it up. And I was like, this is not bad. I finished it and I was like, wow, I actually enjoyed the feelings.
And you were impressed with what you did?
Yeah. And I was like, wow, I still got it. And I was like, okay, cool. So then I started doing more like cartoons and stuff like that. And but I've always thought, what would be nice if I ever did like hyperrealism, like drawings that were so real that you could not differentiate between them, a picture or actual drawing, because especially from afar. So I always thought I would like to get there one day, but of course I didn't know how to go about that. So I started with the little sketches and just drawing cartoons and stuff. And then I did that for I think a couple of years, and then the pandemic hit. When the pandemic hit, like I said, I was fortunate enough that I was not one of the people laid off, so I was still working. But of course, the government told everyone to stay inside, and there were not a lot of things were open at the time too. And of course, I love playing sports, like soccer, tennis, volleyball. But a lot of these things you need at least one other person to do it with. So I turned to art. I started watching YouTube videos. Started teaching myself, and I started reaching out to some other artists via Instagram just to ask them for tips and stuff. I was fortunate enough that a few of them did get back to me and tell me exactly, regardless of how many followers they had, they were still able to answer me and give me tips. But
how nice.
then I thought, you know what, trial and error.
Yeah.
With pencil, you erase, nobody has to know. And I started doing it, and I was like, oh my goodness, I'm enjoying this a lot more. And what I did realize was that it was also during the start of the pandemic as well too. There was the George Floyd case then, which was pretty much universal at the time too, which was not quite the best time as a Black person, or even in general for mental health or whatnot, because it was really like dark time. But I was fortunate enough that during that time I started sketching, and I just zoned out.
Mm.
I literally turned off the internet, turned off social media, to make sure that I was not, you know, I was not taking in negative thoughts into
Right.
my head at that time, right? There was so many things going on at the
Mm.
time. And I realized every single time I was sketching, I could sit in one spot for 5, 6 hours.
Wow.
And I just do not remember what else is going on in the world and just zone out. And every single day that I was working on the piece, I got a lot happier
Mm.
because I was getting that dopamine, that reward
Right.
from it. And it wasn't costing me much apart from time. But the reward was so good that it was just addicting. And I just kept on doing it, and it just became like, oh my goodness, I'm actually loving this and stuff like that. And yeah, so since then, these pieces can take 40, 50 hours to do each one. It could take me 2, 3 months, even
Wow.
4, depends on the mood, depends on what else I
Yeah.
have going on. And yeah, then it became just a thing. And fast forward to 4 years later now, I've had some of my artworks now at the Alberta Art Gallery,
Oh, that's amazing.
and I've had
Congratulations.
thank you. I have them at the Orange Orb
Okay.
as well too. For with BCW, I collaborated with them too, and done some other markets as well too. So
So that, sorry to cut you off. So that exhibition or your piece is still
at the BCW, the
W.
Orange
Okay.
Orb,
Okay.
yes, they're there. But the Alberta Art Gallery, I had them last year
Okay.
at the gallery for Black History Month. I collaborated with 5 artists, One Love.
Nice.
I've collaborated with Darren. He's fantastic, and he's one of it's the organizers of 5 artists, One Love, and he's been very vocal about like helping Black artists like myself.
Okay.
And 5 artists, One Love have been just very fantastic in terms of like the way they go about things. Yes,
We need a lot of those voices speaking on our behalf.
absolutely,
And
yeah.
I, from some of the guests we've had, there's been a positive move, change. There's a lot that has to be done,
Yeah,
but we see changes going on all across the board. So, which
Yeah.
is really nice. We need
absolutely.
more of us showing up on in those different sectors, right?
That's right.
Which
That's
is
right.
amazing. So keep using your art to to help the rest of our community, especially encouraging the younger generation that yes, they can do this when they see people that look like them.
Absolutely,
Right? So,
yeah. It's therapeutic as well too. It's like it's art also does what hyperrealism does is that it stimulates the brain because the brain is also like, for example, going to the gym, you or playing sports, you get better at it once you keep practicing and stuff like that. But thing about the brain, because it's like feels like a muscle, really. Once you keep sketching, you're stimulating your thinking because a lot of thought has to go into the drawing. Like, okay, for example, I'm right-handed, so when I'm also sketching, I'm sketching like I'm writing, like, so I'm going from left to right. I deal in charcoal and graphite, so it's very easy for it to get dirty and stuff like that, to make a mess. And a lot of other artists that use oil painting, acrylic, and so on can probably attest to that fact as well too. But in my case, I chose charcoal and graphite because there's that feeling of seeing my artworks in black and white that is just kind of cool to me. So
So you chose hyperrealism, that's form of visual arts. Why did you decide to do that? And also, you chose to do black and whites. And I'm like, black and white is so boring. And you have the option to do colored art. So why hyperrealism, and why do you just have you decided to do black and white?
so prior to even doing hyperrealism, I was doing like 3D.
Okay.
So 3D drawings are like very like trippy in some kind of way because they kind of like, they look like they're coming out of the paper or something like that. It's like illusion
Right.
kind of stuff. Of course, hyperrealism too, like the ones I finally do now, they're also like, it's kind of like an illusion as well, but it's kind of different. I've always wanted to do hyperrealism. I've always admired artists that could do it. It's like, oh my goodness, so real. It's also like, when some people, when you go to the gym and like, you look fit and good and stuff like that. Some people automatically say steroids, for example, because it's like, okay, if you do say that, then you underestimate the hours, the dedication the person put into, or the years of like maybe saying no to drinking, but they'll rather eat proper meal, fruits, right? You're going to say, well, so you just think automatically steroids was able to transform them overnight, neglecting the artwork. So it's the same kind of concept even with my drawings as well. When some people think it's a photo, which again, it's a compliment on one end that I did it so good that they say it's a photo. However, it also under like, it sets aside like the 40, 50 or 60 hours I spent detailing. And because I'm like, it's not like a painting where I could get a brush to go through, it's pencil, so it's very tedious, and it's like you're doing it gradually, and it's very painstaking, really. And so it's kind of like, it feels good. Maybe that's why it feels so good, because once you finally do get to a point where you're like, damn, I like this, And the thing about artworks is, as an artist, I'm my own worst critic. So even when I do something and people are like, this is stunning, I'm criticizing it every day. Every day. I could work on something spend 15 hours on it, and I could just be on like just one eye. 15 hours, and I'm just like, I do not like this. So what I'll do is I'll just walk away from it. I could walk away for months.
So that helps you get better, so you could see, because you already see what you want.
Exactly.
And then you're doing what you're supposed to do to get to that goal,
so
right?
It's so I can look at it, I was like, this is just tedious. And then people are like, oh, this is fantastic. And then maybe after 3 months, I come back to it, I was like, I work on it for a couple of hours, like, this is the best thing ever. That's how like the mind is changes as well too.
Yeah.
And so with hyperrealism, obviously there's different people that do all painting, they do acrylic, they like with colors and stuff.
Right.
I wanted to also be a little different with black and white. It's just some kind of form of originality. And the other thing about my artwork, sometimes I always say to people, if you ever get maybe a little bit intoxicated one day, or like maybe you're in your home, you're just having a wine or something, and you just keep staring at my work, you might just think somebody's staring back at you, because they can be so real, which I find very like, I think some people are like, I would like to try that someday, look in my eyes. And I always also recommend people that with my artworks, you never put it in a place where you're always looking at.
Okay.
For example, if let's say your TV is right there, I'm sitting and looking at the TV. Your TV is supposed to be the center of attraction in this case. You don't want anything on top of it, at least not my artwork, because you're gonna be looking at it. It's very distracting. So I always suggest to people when they purchase them to put it on like the side where they have to turn to look at it, or left or right, or maybe once you open your door into your home, you look at it, but you're not always standing by your door, because it's not a fixated thing, but it's kind of welcoming. So because sometimes you can be deep in thoughts, and you just like, just look at it as like, it rewards you, and then it doesn't diminish the value of the work, and then you look away. It's not always somewhere you stare at for hours and hours and stuff like that. So it doesn't diminish the value. So you kind of still have that, like, I love this and stuff like that, that kind of stuff. So that's kind of why I like it. Another thing about the drawings is that, at least for me, I don't know about other artists, it's easier to draw. I find it easier to draw a celebrity than somebody that I know or that I've seen in person.
Okay.
That would sound very weird, but for example, if
break it down.
So if you tell me, if let's say, for example, if you and I hang out every day for, let's say, 3 months or 4 months, every day I see you and stuff like that, and then after the third or fourth month, you took a picture of yourself during that time, let's say at a party or whatever it is, a portrait, and then you say, Ola, I want you to sketch this reference. So I have my reference, and all I have to do is follow it.
Yeah.
But what my subconscious will start doing is that as soon as I start drawing, I'm going to say, oh, I saw her yesterday. She didn't look like that. I saw her 2 days ago. So, but the thing is, I've now created a memory of you in my head, and it's different from the picture, because sometimes, we can wake up in the wrong side of the bed. Sometimes it's like a different hairstyle. Sometimes it's like, oh, I'm not feeling the best that day. Sometimes, there are other things too. And also pre-makeup, post-makeup, all of those things too, or like air change, so many factors. But
Mm.
nevertheless, it's like, why do you look different? So my mind starts playing mind tricks on me,
Yeah.
even though all I'm supposed to do is just follow the
Right.
reference. But with celebrities, the thing is that sometimes my only memory of them is what I've seen on TV.
True.
So when I find a picture of them, I just say, okay, my brain doesn't have something else to compare it
Right.
to.
Right.
But when I know you, it becomes very personal.
Oh.
So then I start thinking, okay, you need to silence that noise in your head.
Yeah.
Because that is like, I think I've never really attempted to sketch myself before, but
That
I
would be
think
interesting. I think you should try
even though
it.
I've had a couple of people suggest that, like I should sketch myself, and I'm
Yeah.
saying,
Ooh.
I'm already my own worst critic. You really think I want to torture myself
Right.
and go through that?
You take the challenge. And
I-
let's see how many hours it'll take you.
I know. It might take me a year or so because I'm thinking, this is what people see.
Right.
Oh Lord. But I actually
No,
I
you look
think
good,
I
so.
well, thank you. I think it would be very fascinating to do. I've actually had a
Yeah.
couple of friends sketch me,
Yeah.
which I thought like they did a great job actually based on the reference they got. But it's something that also happens, at least with me. So I wouldn't be surprised if other artists also have that same issue. But every
Yeah.
artist depends on the medium they use, whether it's charcoal or acrylic or oil or
Mm-hmm.
watercolor. They would all have their own like issues that they probably come across
Yeah.
to do. And yeah, that's certainly mine.
Wow. Nice. So black and white, I'm thinking, oh, it's boring, but it looks really, really good. And I can't wait for us to go to this, segment where
Yeah,
you're gonna explain, some of these artwork,
absolutely.
like the story
I'm
behind
always
them.
happy to.
Awesome. So, what is your future goal as an artist? Like, where do you see your art developing into, say, in the next year or, couple months?
Actually, I think I would like to maybe one day in the future open like maybe like a studio.
Okay.
But the studio I want it to be like a studio for, doesn't matter what kind of artist you are. You could, or what kind of medium that you use, but like you could have like different rooms. Like there are some artists, young or old, but they can't sketch in their homes because they like distracted. So I'm thinking of a library, but instead of a library that's full of books, it would just be a studio, but maybe with like different tables or rooms where artists can come. They can either come rent the space out, maybe a room in the studio or the whole studio, but mostly like a room, or do their artwork for like 2 hours or so, and then they can go home and still go about their lives. And in the process, other artists can still come and say, "Oh, I like that guy's work," and then collab. So I could be like the glue in which, like, the place where artists are meeting themselves. It doesn't matter what kind of medium you use, but it's like my studio, whether they want to rent it out, whether they just come in there to collaborate with people. And another thing I obviously like to do more workshops and like work with collaborate with different organizations to do like a sip and paint night, those kind of things. Obviously that's with the adults, but of course with youngsters we do like little art workshop, few hours or something, obviously, because you have to worry about the attention span as well too, with kids as well too. Also thinking me personally, maybe some of the artworks that I've done or the artworks I like to do, I like to give like work with like maybe even musicians. Sometimes you go to like YouTube to check out like the lyrics of music, and the lyrics is kind of like playing or going through like a PowerPoint slide. But I want it to be like, I like to take pictures of all my drawings with each step, so that way if I ever make any mistakes, I know exactly where the mistake came from. So with the lyrics playing and my music, like and my artwork forming in the background, I think that by the completion of the song, then my artwork is fully formed as well too. So it's kind of going hand in hand. I think that would really be something that would be really cool. So definitely working with like artists that are like musicians, that the lyrics have to obviously match the drawing too. So it's kind of like related. And the thing is, a lot of my artworks are centered around Black people and also Africa, but like again, Black people in general, to also show that we're not a monolith. And I think that that's something that like, I think the lyrics also the lyrics could be about or anything really, but you would have to also be particular, have to make sure that it matches what the artwork I'm
Right.
matching it with, so that way when people are re-watching it and stuff, it will be quite like seamless.
Wow. So you have a great plan.
Yeah, so
And yeah, I wish you all the best.
thank
And
you.
I
Thank
can't
you.
wait to hear a couple of years that
Yeah.
all is doing even bigger things
Well, that's the whole
as
part.
anticipated.
Can't wait as well.
So Ola, how would you summarize all what you've shared here so far on this platform and some of your experiences? How would you summarize that in one word?
One word that kind of be slightly challenging, but however, I like to say, if I had to pick something, I have to say thankful.
Okay, and why? Why thankful?
Well, thankful to God first and foremost. Thankful to my parents, my siblings, and thankful to friends I've made along the way coming to Canada, my homestay family, and so on and so forth. Thankful to like the people around me. Thankful to you guys as well too for having me on the show. So like lots of things. That's probably gonna be it if I had to summarize it, because I find it that like, with the networking and stuff, there are some things that like even I didn't know that somebody told me about and stuff like that, and it had to do with like the way I've maybe carried myself or the way I've they've experienced me, because different people experience me in different ways, right? Depends on the setting and so on and so forth. That so I like to say that being thankful is definitely the word to use if I wanted to be specific in one word. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, thankful. I like that. And networking is key though, right? 'Cause
Absolutely.
it doesn't matter how good your work is, you have to somehow get it out there. So I think that's the challenge too in all that we do, right?
Yeah.
Learning how to network with the right people that can get your work out there. So
Yeah. Also,
glad you
actually,
speak.
I forgot to mention before, in addition to like talk about goals or future or something like that.
Okay.
I've always thought like when I'm sketching, I like to watch, listen to music or watch Animal Planet
Right.
a lot, right? So maybe one day I've always thought I'd like to do like a voiceover.
Okay, that
Or
would be
something
cool.
like that, like that kind of like Morgan Freeman, like narrating and stuff
Yeah.
like that. May start that with like maybe making more videos for my artwork, so that way when I'm sketching every time I record them and maybe do a voiceover of it.
Right.
But I always thought it'd be really cool to do that, like voiceover of maybe people's things, something like that, and like or even like day to day or whatever like that. So I think that'll be something I have in mind.
It's gonna look really good when you get to that stage
thank you.
for sure. And we look forward to being part of that.
Wow.
Or watching it or seeing it or
can't wait
however we can participate or enjoy it, I would say. All right, so to all of you out there, I don't believe gratitude is something. Just pause for a minute and think about that individual or, somebody that's made a difference in your life. And maybe after this episode, you could call them up and just say a nice thank you, because we ought to be grateful. And thank you for reminding us to be thankful, because it goes a long way, especially, of course, God, America hearing thank you, and, that individual on the other end, it just gives a lot of satisfaction.
Absolutely.
And it tells that individual that, they're giving back, they're creating an impact in someone else's life. So let's be thankful more as often as we're able to.
Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah. So we are going to get into the segment where Ola gets to share some of his artwork. So this is another time to showcase and tell your viewers the stories behind all these beautiful paintings, and then you have some merchandise as well that you will share towards the end.
Yeah,
so,
sure.
All right, let's get into it.
Okay.
All right, so this is time for Ola to tell us more about his drawing. So take it away.
Sure, thank you. I'm gonna start with this one right here because it's kind of like pretty much the drawing that kind of like started it all. So this one here, I call it Black is Beautiful. Earlier, I touched base about like during the pandemic when like I first started drawing hyperrealism, when I started watching YouTube videos and during the old George Floyd time, that it was not quite the best time for Black people in general, everyone, because it was so negative online. So this was the drawing I was working on during that time, and I never done anything like that in my life. So can imagine my surprise. So when I said that, I felt some kind of like happiness every single time I was working on this little girl. It was just a whole lot of like dopamine and endorphins that was being generated in me as I was working on it. And because I'm also right-handed, I was working from left to right. So the point was to be able to depict, obviously, a sunny day of this little girl with water dripping down her face, and also with like sunlight on the side. Obviously, her eyes are obviously different. I spent almost 60 hours on this drawing back then in 2020 when I did it, and it took me, like I said, 3 to 4 months to pull it off, and it ended up being my birthday gift to myself. And I finished it, I think, just in time. I was like June 14 or so, because my birthday is June 15. So it was just like the perfect thing. And so that's why I called it Black is Beautiful. I also, again, in all my artworks, I like to submerge my Instagram just right there, not to take away from the drawing, but it's just kind of like, printed in there some kind of way too. And I have them for sale as well.
Awesome.
And this one here is also a little bit different here. As you can see with both drawings, I like to draw the way in which like it promotes, uplifts the Black people, our culture, Africans, and generally like Black people all over the world, to show we're not a monolith, of course. With this drawing, I titled The Face of Africa. So I stumbled upon this picture actually on social media, and like I thought it was like very interesting. So with this one, there's a few things that are going on in there. Some people notice different things, and well, on this side here you have Africa, and on this side here you have South America. But the reason why obviously it stands out to people is because of the fact that it's also awareness on the skin condition like vitiligo, which is kind of like similar condition to like what Michael Jackson had, but it's a way to like put awareness on it. And this one, I was doubting myself a lot because our lips, obviously I wanted to make sure I was able to portray our features in such a great manner to show the gloss on the lipstick, to make sure that it was exactly the way I saw it. And also with a forehead, I needed to create some kind of way like with the flash. So obviously with the forehead, the makeup, everything, I needed to portray that. And I spent about like maybe 45, 50 hours or slightly more on this one as well too. And it took me a few months as well too. So this one and the first one I showed you were definitely two of my favorite drawings.
Beautiful piece.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Now, this one, on the other hand, actually, it's very like a little bit emotional, because this one has different, how do I put this, different interpretations to it. And actually, while you're here with me, though, I'm going to put you on the spot. What do you think? What's your interpretation of him? Bear in mind, this is also going to be for our viewers as well, too. I like to know what they're thinking, too, so they can definitely message me on Instagram and so on, Ola Forever, and tell me exactly what they think of this drawing. What's their interpretation of it? So what's yours?
Okay. So what I see is, well, of course, there's a little girl, but it's a reflection of what, this individual might see themselves as.
Okay.
I see, in this case, I see royalty, I see maturity, and there's a mirror there. So basically, to me, it's like, think positive of yourself, think the best version of yourself. Okay,
absolutely. That's pretty good. Pretty good. Honestly, like I said, right, everyone that I've asked this question about this drawing is supposed to be subjective, and I spent about 35 hours on it, slightly a few hours less than the previous two. So it could be a case of like what you said. It could be a little girl envisioning greatness for herself, and obviously I wanted to uplift Black girls, in terms of like with words of affirmation. This drawing kind of does that. And it could be a kid, it's like a little girl looking at herself in the mirror saying, okay, I want to be like a queen when I grow up. And again, words of affirmation. And also like think of Snow White, the enchanted mirror, who's the first lady in the land kind of thing, right? That's we are looking at that. It could also be a message of like past generation and future generation clashing, like ancestors and the new age and whatnot. And all of these things, it's just maybe a girl was fixing her mom's.
That too, right?
And or just literally herself in an alternate reality. All of that is intertwined in this drawing, and that's why I really like it. And I did this one earlier this year, actually for Black History Month, and I thought it was one drawing that was able to capture the essence of that in terms of like maybe a bond between like a mother and daughter, and to uplift like a Black woman and then like the Black girls as well too in like in the diaspora. And I think that this drawing was definitely able to capture that.
Well, all great messages for sure.
The title of this one, I gave it "Dear Future Self."
Okay,
It's kind of like a writing a letter to yourself or something like that. But yeah, definitely one of my favorite as well.
Wow, amazing. Thank
you. Okay, so for this, as I mentioned earlier, I'm a big fan of playing tennis, and like obviously, so I thought it would only be nice to draw somebody that I like watching play as well too. Sometimes I love watching Serena Williams as well too, but I was able to find this particular picture of Naomi Osaka, which I believe she's American and she's also Japanese as well. And the side view and the concentration, and also with a little bit of the racket in there just to do. This was a little bit different because she's got the hair as well too, the headband, and obviously on her the side view. And I thought like this one was actually very fun to sketch as well too, because I was actually like giggling a little bit drawing it, because I thought I hope one day she gets to be able to see it as well too, because I think she was also in the Olympics recently. And so I spent maybe 30-40 hours on this one as well too. Not as detailed as the previous ones I showed, but still equally challenging in its way, because that's trying to get the curly hair is also somewhat challenging, especially even the racket. As easy as it looked, trying to make sure that you get the straight line or the curves to make sure people can be able to see exactly what my vision was to pull it off was not quite easy as well.
Okay, this is for all the tennis fans.
This is for all the tennis fans like that want to purchase it, or like you can say, okay, I have a picture of a tennis player in my house, or drawing over it, should I say? So definitely. So for this one here, as most people will recognize, or at least people that watch boxing, this is Anthony Joshua. This one was actually like very challenging for me. The reason why is because unlike the other ones, it's more like the faces, so all the features are bigger, the eyes, everything. But for this one, because the head is so small, it kind of like was very challenging. And I was doing like 80% of his body. And more importantly, I was trying to focus on his muscles, the veins, and to show that he's an actual boxer. So it was kind of like a lot more the rage and stuff like that. This is like one of those like pre-shoots before they fight or something like that. So I needed to portray that. And again, like all my drawings, I like to submit my Instagram name in there, which all of these, obviously, they can be purchased on my Etsy page, @Ola, or like even just reach out to me on Instagram, Ola Forever, OLA4REVER, if any of your viewers want to find it. And it definitely was kind of challenging to draw this one like the others, but I'm glad on how it turned out for sure.
So detailed, phenomenal.
Thank you.
Good job.
Okay, so this one here is the almighty Fela Kuti. This one here, this drawing is obviously kind of dear to me, because I pretty much before when I wanted to sketch him, I'm sure most of our viewers like obviously listen to Afrobeats. They know Burna Boy. Burna Boy I feel like he got a lot of his inspiration from Fela Kuti, and a lot of people all over the world, if they have to study music and so on and so forth, they have to at some point learn about this man. This man was like, I think of him as the not Mandela. I think of him as the Bob Marley of like Afrobeat back in the 70s, 80s or whatnot. And then he used to perform in his like underwear. It was a menace on stage. So he used to, like, he was an activist. It was much more than just a musician.
Right.
So he used to call out like politicians, corrupt politicians. He used to talk about like things to make Nigeria better and all of those things too. So he definitely, so when I was trying to find a reference before I drew him, I needed to find something that where you could see his attitude through the screen with the side view, like when God, like what do you think you're talking to, kind of like demeanor, like, you know, when somebody accidentally bumps into you and you just turn back and like, you know, I know you didn't just say that to me, kind of stuff, right? So he had that. I literally, so I think I spent what 40 hours on this drawing, on this piece. It was in his own case, actually, it was a little bit different because I started with the background to make it black first before I started doing his face. Unlike the other ones where sometimes I do the face, everything, and then I do the background after. And if I remember correctly, Burna Boy's mom, actually, I believe was in his band. Back in like, you know, the 70s, 80s as well too. So I think there's some kind of like, you know, like, you know, like a family friend kind of thing, right? So it was kind of awesome in terms of like his motivation and stuff like that. I'm glad that a lot of people listen to Afro beats now, but this man was definitely one of the big timers back then when he was alive. So definitely. So if you don't know about Fela Kuti, for all our viewers, I would definitely recommend that they research about listen to his music because it was just phenomenal.
Such a legend. Thanks for showcasing him.
So for this one, actually, this leopard, it was actually surprisingly easier than the other ones, but it was the most like time consuming because I spent about 65 hours on this one. The thing is, so with animals, it's kind of this. So for example, you and I now, like being that like, obviously you have more hair than I do, so I'll spend more time on it if I was drawing. But with men also sometimes even with beard or like, you know, long hair, dreads, all of those things have to play a role. But now if we compare from like humans to like a small dog, the dog has a lot more fur, so I spend more time than dog to like maybe let's see, a hyena, for example, or another like kind of animal that is like a lot of furs, and then you go advance and talk about lions and like tigers, leopard, or anyone like in the cat family as well too. Like so I spent a lot of times doing like the furs for this animal. And the thing about hair strands also is that they don't all go in the same direction. Because you have to consistently keep doing it and stuff to make sure that even the whiskers, they're like perfect as well. So when I saw this reference of this drawing, I thought, of this picture, I thought, okay, I would like to do something like that, but I needed to be able to capture exactly how I'm going to do it. And most times we, general rule, we use erasers for mistakes when we make them. But in hyperrealism, actually, erasers, even with the faces that I do, erasers actually do help. They help to give you the illusion that it's real, even when because everyone has like, you know, you have your pores, you have your glands, you have like, you know, freckles, all of those things. You have to be able to find a way to put them on the drawing. So with animals, like you have to do the whiskers, you have to do the furs or the hair strands, everything in different directions. So you actually have to use erasers in my favor here. So even the eyes and whatnot, you need to be able to do the contrast between the black and the white, and so many things have to go into this. And again, like a lot of my artworks as artists, at least me, I like to put my signature on the bottom right. Most artists too, because you don't want to take away from the actual drawing itself, because that's not the first thing you want people to see. But again, my Instagram is obviously filtered. It's put in there as well to Allah Forever, which is where people can message me on Instagram. And also it has my link on the top of my page where people can purchase on my Etsy. And I look forward to, like, you know, your viewers also reaching out for tips as well too. I also do like, I do one-on-ones as well, or group classes if need be. But sometimes I think that like different people learn differently. So sometimes even one-on-one is a lot better. If you're in person, it could be a few hours and get tips. And then from there, it could be virtual, so on and so forth. But yeah, I'm always definitely obviously open to helping out people.
Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing all these beautiful stories, depicting all these life transforming stories through your art.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it.
Happy to.
So check all out on Instagram, reach out, if you're interested in workshops, one-on-one, all what he's explained today. And he also has some merchandise that he would like to
Yeah,
share
of
as
course.
well.
So I realized like for some people they like to have like my drawings on their wall, and some people they want to wear it. And so right now, if you want to hold that, so this
Sure.
is this drawing as well, like I mentioned before, Face of Africa. So you have it on a shirt, and the sizes range from small to 3XL.
Okay.
And obviously, sometimes some people can wear it and also make sure they take pictures and
Yeah.
like send it to me and like
Nice.
even post and tag me in it. I think that it will be like really fantastic to be able to have my merchandise out there as well too. So it comes in pink, gray, or black. And right now, similar to this one here, the Dear Future Self, also this is it in black. I think also it works. It looks
that's
even
pretty.
a lot prettier, like even with the pink, because the contrast of the black drawing itself, you can see it on the shirt.
Right.
And again, he also comes in gray, the pink, gray, and black as well, too, similar with the Face of Africa. And yeah, definitely you can reach out. You can get them on my Etsy page, Art with Ola, and they're very affordable. And obviously, they have durability as well too. The instructions on how to wash them, also it's already in the wrapper once you open it up. And you can reach out to me on Instagram as well at Ola Forever, and be able to ask me questions on how to go about purchasing them as well too.
Awesome. It's affordable. If you can't get the one on your wall, you can wear it.
Exactly. You can. It would be nice to also support local business as
That's
well too,
right.
since I'm Edmonton based as well too.
Yeah. Let's keep supporting our own people here. All right. Thank you.
No problem.
These are really nice. Awesome. All right. So, Ola, as we round up this podcast today, what advice do you have for our viewers out there?
Advice that I'll definitely have is, first of all, like, we only have one body, so like one physical body, that is, so we definitely have to be comfortable in it. So what I would definitely recommend at least is that we do something active that stimulates the brain, the mind, everything. So in terms of even physical activity, even as walking, obviously this time of the year allows for that, but I'm sure because we live in Edmonton, it's cold 8 months out of 12. I don't tend to sketch as much in the summertime because I want to be outside. So I join like volleyball leagues, and I play volleyball, play tennis, soccer, badminton, just be outdoors as well. Sometimes I'll go to the gym in the fall and winter, of course, because I can do as much outdoor sports. So I can maybe if I don't play tennis outdoors, I'll go do the volleyball instead and play indoor volleyball. I try to go to the gym, and then I can do a little bit more art. So I'll definitely recommend that you find your own niche, even if it's music or something like that. You put effort into it, it's something that is different from what your daily routine is. So that's one thing I'll recommend. Another thing that is also significantly important is that it is very important to also make friends with people outside of like your culture, your race, and stuff like that, because by coming here at the age of 16 and stuff, it made it easier for me to do. Of course, if I'm talking to a lot of our viewers who are probably adults now, it might be slightly more challenging, but I would still recommend it because it makes you be able to understand what somebody else is thinking, how best to respect somebody's culture, and vice versa. Because now you get to understand, oh, I see why these people like do things like this and so on and so forth, because it really does help. And culture is something that like education never stops.
Right.
Doesn't matter how many degrees you have, right? And that's one thing that my dad always told me, because since it never stops, every day if you meet different kinds of people, you get to learn, you get to understand. Overall, you're a different, better person, and you see that in your day to day. And another thing I would thank my mom for was words of affirmation.
It's words of affirmation is very big. I think that is something that every individual should do from like when they're young, like parents to kids and kids to themselves and parents to themselves, husband to wife, wife to husband. And it doesn't have to be long. It could just be 10 seconds or 15 seconds. Oh, I woke up today. I look good. I feel good. Let's go kill it. You know, that alone resonates with the rest of your body. And by doing that, you start seeing that, like, it's when you go to the gym, when you first start going, it takes maybe like a month or two sometimes for you to start noticing the changes. Sometimes it could be very drastic where you notice immediately, depends on your routine. But once people start noticing it after 2-3 months, then you're like, oh man, I want to keep doing this. So I think that it's very important to also take care of yourself as well too. So definitely words of affirmation is something that I would advise everyone to say to themselves. You just have to find something that is worth saying, because when there's no enemy within, the enemy without can do anything to you. And it's kind of like, if you feel good as a person and stuff like that, no matter what kind of nonsense or mess you outside, it can't quite get to you, because you're more like comfortable in your own self and stuff like that. So it increases your self-esteem, and it also shows in your day-to-day activities. As for art, honestly, just pick up a pen or pencil and just go for it. That's the thing about it, because that's pretty much what I did. And you just like, don't even overthink it when it comes to art. You don't have to have a specific routine. The thing about art is it's subjective. You can do, I'll have, some people don't like hyperrealism. Some people like it, but they don't like it in black and white. Some people like it in color. Some people like abstract. Some people will see my artwork and say, I don't quite like that. It's too real. I want my artwork to be abstract object or whatever it is that I can't quite see eyes and so on. They might feel a little threatened or something like that. So it would be a case of, it doesn't have to be good from the get-go, or like, you just have to try it. And like, I'm always free, like, people can always reach me out like on Instagram. For my Instagram is Ola Forever, OLA 4 REVER. I'm always open to DMs as well too, for people to reach out and just ask questions, because I knew a few years ago I was in that same scenario, and I had to reach out to different artists as well too, and some were very nice enough to reply to me, and by so doing it made me the artist that I am today. And I hope that I can keep giving back to people, anyone that wants to ever learn anything about art.
Thank you so much, Ola, for being here today. We
My
do
pleasure.
appreciate your time and all, what you've shared. And thank you. You're doing a phenomenal job
Thank you.
just capturing all of those stories through your artwork. And we hope for all the best, all your future plans. And we can't wait to see what Ola's doing in the near future.
Me too.
Awesome. Thank you all so much for joining us today on Our Lives Narratives. We appreciate all of your time, and we appreciate all of our guests. I guess this episode is an episode of gratitude, being thankful. So we want to thank every individual out there that's supporting us, that's watching all of our episodes and sharing. And we thank all of our guests for all of the value that they're bringing to our platform, because without them, this would not be possible. So continue to join us every Wednesdays at 6 p.m. for our new episodes. Also, make sure to check out our other episodes. There's a lot of them. There's season 1, 7 episodes, and there is season 2, over 10 episodes. So make sure to check all of those out. And continue to follow us on all of our social media platforms at Medan Productions, on YouTube, on TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram. Until our next episodes, as I always say, it's our lives and our stories. Ola, why don't you say goodbye as well to our viewers?
Well, once again, thank you for having me on the show, and thank you guys for tuning in as well too. And like I said, feel free to reach out to me. So I just want to say I'm thankful again, and hope to hear from you guys soon.
Awesome.
Have a good day.
Have a good evening. Thank you. Bye-bye.